Where did we go?
Hello, welcome back to our channel. I'm Sammy.
And I'm Tommy.
And we are currently sitting in Fort Payne, Alabama. We wanted to pop on here and talk about where we went. We started this channel, had good traction, and life hit us.
In life, people have their own realities. And people try to project those realities onto you based on how they're feeling internally. And something that someone very close to me at one point, which was my brother, tried to tell me that I was spending too much time with somebody that I was really getting along with and seeing a healthy relationship develop. And so he projected his fear onto me in order to get us to spend less time together. And ultimately, I didn't agree with what he had projected onto me, so I didn't listen to him, and we kept hanging out. And the way we met was on 2/22/2022, and we became best friends right away. We started hanging out and doing meditations, and that led us down the path to do more internal healing. And as my brother was projecting this on me, I decided to give myself a little space from his reality and that projection. And we spent weeks, if not months, together every single day.
We've been inseparable.
We love hanging out with each other, and we see nothing wrong with that. And so on July 29th, I believe, I decided, because maybe some of that projection was still on me, that I just needed a little time for myself. Not to say that needing time for yourself is a bad thing. I think if you can communicate that and come to an agreement that, it doesn't have to turn into a fight or an argument, but we're all human. And I think alone time is essential. So on July 29th, we decided to spend the night at our own apartments, and Sammy left my apartment back in Charleston, South Carolina, and 30 minutes later, I got a text from her.
We had the best day also. Let me start out by that. We went to the beach. We were body surfing by the pier at Folly Beach, and it was the most fun. So to take a day for ourselves, I was crawling into bed at 8 p.m. Ooh, I'm so excited to go to bed early. And as I was settling into my bed, I received a FaceTime from my family, and immediately I saw the room that they were in, and I could see the looks on their faces, but their message wasn't coming out clearly. We got the news that my brother passed away in a motorcycle accident. He was 21 years old, and was going around a curve. He was a daredevil and loved to try to dip low, so chances are something within that just bucked him off, and he flew and hit a tree. And his friend that he was going to meet up with for dinner is the one who realized he didn't make it to the place, and he had actually been driving behind him but didn't see where he went, and was dude, he must have just taken off. So he called my parents, and my parents actually found him on the side of an on-ramp, and he had a bad brachial fracture to his arm, internal damage, and my parents got to say I love you and have that peace with him, but he knew in that moment that he wasn't gonna make it. So Immediately, I texted Tommy as soon as I heard the words come out of my parents' mouth, like, I need you here, my brother is dead.
So I immediately got in the car and drove to Sammy's apartment to find her hysterical in the bathroom. And me being the empath that I am, I felt for her and I started crying with her. And, through Sammy's own journey, she advised me to just hold space for her. And that is what I did. That night was full of cries and tissues and disbelief, and the whole world changed in that moment. And so the next day, I asked Sammy if he wanted to go home. So we bought a plane ticket and we went up to Massachusetts, and that was my first time meeting her family. When we got to the house, there was extended family. I didn't know who was who, and it was overwhelming to say the least. And we spent time that week with her family until the funeral. And at the funeral, my dad showed up, and that's a whole nother story. We recently were in business together, and he started going down the wrong path, and I decided to leave, which led me to Charleston, which led me to meet Sam. And he showed up to the funeral, and in that moment my life completely stopped, and I was in disbelief that I was seeing my dad there. I didn't even know that he knew. I didn't even really know that he knew I had a girlfriend. He saw me, we locked eyes in the middle of the funeral, and he came up to me and we hugged each other.
It was like a scene out of a movie,
And through the hug, I was looking at Sammy because she was behind my dad, and she was just telling me to breathe, like breathe, breathe, breathe. And so that's all I could do was breathe in that moment. I had a pit in my stomach. I felt like I was gonna throw up, and we decided to go outside. And he had one of our childhood cars, which we called Big Red, and that was a staple of my father, a big red Suburban. And so we walked out there and we talked briefly, and I thanked him for coming, and I hugged him. We told each other that we loved each other, but I looked into his eyes in that moment and I just saw, what looked like the devil in his eyes, and just really low vibration within him. And I turned away and I walked away back to Sammy and her friends because I was excited to meet her friends. And in that moment where I walked away, I paused and stopped, and I saw my dad drive away. And in that moment, everything in my life stopped. The whole world stopped around me, and it was a feeling that I've never felt before. The funeral finished, and we ended up going back down to Charleston. We got a invitation to work the Big E, which is
Eastern States. It's the biggest Eastern States exposition. It's in West Springfield, Massachusetts. It's a huge, county fair type deal. But we got to work in the ski house.
So we worked in the ski house, and throughout that week, it was a couple weeks that we were working, and we got really sick. And we ended up not working for a whole week because we were laying in bed so sick. On the Sunday was going to be our last day of working the Big E, and on that Saturday I was having such bad low back pain that I told Sammy, that's it, I'm done. That's it, I'm done with this shit.
This is my last day, we're done.
I'm not doing this anymore, I'm not getting paid enough for this. And as we're walking to the car, I check my phone and I see that I have missed calls from my mom, and I had multiple missed calls from my mom, which was not like her, so I kind of knew something was up. And she got us on the phone and she told me that my dad passed away.
Nearly 2 months, almost exactly 2 months to the day.
That day was October 1st of 2022. I was expecting it in a weird way based on the path that he was going down, and I had already felt like I was grieving his loss. We got back to Sam's house, and I told her mom, and I went into our room and started crying, and her whole family came in to hug me, and I don't really remember, but I saw tears coming out of your dad's eyes. And to be welcomed in that way into your family through all the death that we've experienced was just crazy. Then I got an opportunity to shoot a couple weddings down in Charleston. So I flew back to Charleston alone in between the time that my father passed and the funeral. And that was later October. And so I went down and I shot the weddings, and then I came back up and we did the funeral. And the next day we went out into Long Island Sound on a friend's boat, and we spread his ashes. And as weird as it all is, it was all so aligned so perfectly that I knew God had a plan. After that, we flew back down to Charleston
to receive the news shortly after that my grandma was on a downward spiral as well. And honestly, through the 2 hard hits we had just taken, neither of us had it in us to go back up for another funeral. Grief was so heavy. I still cry every day. It doesn't get easier, you just
grow around it. And through grief and death, you get to see your own strength and your own power and your ability to cry and let out emotions. And that's something I dealt with for years, that I couldn't cry. I didn't cry for years. And this past year I've cried to make up for those years that I haven't cried. I cry all the time. Songs come onto the radio and I start crying because I think about how much I love my Sammy over here. In November, I ended up moving out of my apartment and I moved in with Sammy, and we shared a 2-bedroom apartment, but we had a roommate, and this certain individual, had his own issues. And a couple days ago, we decided to get into Trusted House Sitters. And it's a platform to go to people's homes to watch their animals for them while they go on trips. And you get to stay for free, and it's a really cool platform. So shout out to Trusted House Sitters for opening up this world to us. Got approved to go to Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee, and that is on the 22nd of this month. So we were manifesting getting out of our apartment. We weren't on the lease, and we wanted to get out of there regardless. And so the other day, we had a conversation with our roommate, and I thought it was fair that for us to leave, that we would pay half of the month of March. And we had been splitting all of it 3 ways, even though we were living in 1 bedroom and he had the master bedroom, but that's besides the point. But, his response said it all, and in that moment, I went back into our room, and I got the intuitive hit that we need to leave. We got to get out of there. So we decided to completely pack our car, and in that moment, I was trying to get an Airbnb, and my Airbnb wasn't working for some reason. Sammy said, "Don't rush that, it's for a reason, and let's focus on packing." So that's what we did.
We made so many Goodwill trips and donated so many things. It feels so nice to just lighten our load, and honestly, we're looking at our stuff right now still we should probably lighten this a little more.
And we really don't have much. We got our yoga mats, our clothes, some bags of food and stuff, but we're in a sedan, so it's not the biggest, but we were able to pack it all. And Sammy has a friend in Charleston who let us stay at her place for a few nights while we gathered our energy and figured out where we were going to go. and what was next. And so I went on Airbnb and started looking around to get us closer to Tennessee so that it wasn't such a far drive from Charleston, and we ended up in Fort Payne, Alabama. So we packed the car that morning, or that night. We woke up, packed, a few extra things, and we hit the road. And we drove 6.5 hours to Fort Payne, Alabama. And that's currently where we are, in this awesome little cottage, and we're finally in our own energy, and we don't have other people's projections on us. And
it is our year of travel. So besides any of that, we had already been manifesting that this year is going to be the year that we travel. Like, we have so many places that we want to see, and the death of all these loved ones so close to us, especially AJ with how young he was a eye-opener. Life could end tomorrow, so let's not wait until we're old to do this stuff. Let's go. We drove to Massachusetts, so with that we hit 6 states.
Yep.
We went to Georgia, we went to Savannah, Georgia. Now we're in Alabama, which neither of us have ever been to Alabama, and we're loving it. It's like a cute little town that reminds us of Radiator Springs from Cars. And we're just checking things off of our bucket list, because life is way too short, you never know, and we want to live this life to the fullest.
So that's kind of where we're at. We are here until this upcoming Wednesday. Today is currently Thursday. So about a week from now, we'll head to Tennessee. We're going to drive through the Smoky Mountains and see all the cool sights from Tennessee. We're staying there for 11 days, and then we're heading straight to Virginia, West Point, Virginia, from there to watch a 11-year-old black lab and a chicken. Which is going to be super cool. And from there, we don't have any plans yet, so we're going to let the universe guide us. This whole video is just kind of a recap of what happened and
what happened, why we went missing, but also to preface that we are back and we are in our year of travel, and we're so excited to take y'all along with us and show you the places that we go and what we learn and experience along the way.
So thanks for watching the video, and we will be posting content soon. So like and subscribe to follow along our journey.
And follow us on other social medias as well. You can find us at Tommy and Sammy 369 on Instagram. Sending you guys so much love. Have an amazing day.